Kirby Smith Associates, situated on beautiful Greenwood Lake in West Milford, New Jersey, was founded in 1938, and for these many years has rendered specialized service to well over 1,400 churches of all the major denominations in many states, including Hawaii and the Virgin Islands, conducting 2 and 3 campaigns in many of these churches. Much of our work is by direct recommendation from one church to another. Our program is unique in that we are the only organization that for these many years has been using an experienced staff of visitors to perform the actual field visitation of the entire constituency in connection with a financial appeal. We are also equipped to render a directed type service if that is desired. This is the voice of the Reverend C. Hans Evans, the pastor of the Presbyterian Church in Coatesville, Pennsylvania. Incidentally, we have served this church on 2 occasions.
This is C. Hans Evans, the pastor of the Presbyterian Church of Coatesville, Pennsylvania. We appreciate very much the fine cooperation we received from you and your associates during our financial campaign for $285,000. It was unbelievable to us that 8 people could come into our community and raise their portion of this amount in less than 2 weeks. As you know, we oversubscribed our goal. The approach to our people was most gratifying, as we have had little or no complaint from members of our congregation and have had many compliments concerning the solicitors. Their solicitation was diplomatic yet businesslike, and the results they obtained were exceptional. We liked the spiritual emphasis of the campaign. It was completely in accord with biblical principles, and it was a campaign that honored Jesus Christ.
In the field of church financing, there are 2 kinds of campaigns that may be conducted in a church. The one is a capital funds appeal. The other is a campaign to increase the level of the giving to the current expense and missionary budgets. The substance of this tape is confined to the capital funds appeal. Any church that has a need for a capital fund realizes that basically the people should be aware of the need. If there is a need, and the people even at this preliminary stage are at least somewhat aware of the need, then upon that foundation we can prepare for a successful campaign. A capital fund campaign consists of 3 basic sections. First, the preparation. Secondly, the visitation. And then the 3rd section, the conservation or follow-up of the campaign. The actual preparation for a campaign is divided into 2 subsections. First, the direct mail approach, which is obviously very important. And secondly, other things that can be utilized in supplemental preparation. The period of intensive preparation is brought to a climax with the congregational dinner, which is usually, although not necessarily, held on Monday evening, immediately prior to the start of the visitation. This day is referred to as D-Day for Dinner Day. On D-Day minus 3 weeks, the first tangible piece of material is utilized in campaign preparation. This is the pastoral letter, which is sent out over the pastor's personal signature. And this is a general pastoral letter, presenting the need in a general way and preparing for the more detailed materials that will follow. 2 weeks later, the second mailing piece is sent out. This is the most important single item of preparation, namely the campaign brochure. And this will explain the who, what, when, where, and whys of your appeal. It is very important to have as many pictures portraying the need in the brochure as possible, and certainly if you are going to build a new church or educational unit, it would be well to picture very vividly the crowded conditions that are existing, the totally inadequate facilities that you are now utilizing. And then, of course, it would be important to picture, at least in a general way, the architect's conception of the new unit or new building and the general floor plan. And also include in the brochure a few brief words from the leaders of the church organizations and why they believe in the program. And then, of course, the brochure will be rounded out with a detailed explanation of the financial program itself. 2 days later, the man-sized letter is sent out, and truly, this is unique. It is a man-sized letter for a man-sized job going out in a large John envelope to match. And this will give the whole story in a nutshell. The last piece of direct mail publicity before the campaign is actually launched is a publicity card. It is a simple, attractive card that focuses the attention of each one on the actual starting date of the visitation. So you see, we have the first letter, the brochure, the man-sized letter, all going out first-class mail, and then the publicity card mailed just before the actual field visitation begins. The other aspect of the preparatory portion of the campaign consists of a number of additional factors. During the 3 Sundays, prior to the start of the visitation, one of the laymen will be asked during the announcement period in each of the services to challenge the people on the general need, presenting the whole plan in a nutshell in about 3 or 4 minutes. It would also be very advisable to have a large attractive sign erected on the site of the new building, and then too perhaps you will be able to have announcements in the local newspapers, or you will utilize the church bulletin or monthly publication that you may have for additional supplemental preparation. And certainly, by the time all these things have been done adequately under the proper supervision and timing, the people will be prepared for the visitation that is shortly to be launched. Now, in the sense of timing, we are up to the point where we have had the sermon on stewardship by the clergyman, which would obviously be on the Sunday before the visitation phase of the campaign is launched. Usually on the following evening, the kickoff dinner will be held. Now, this is a very important detail in the entire structure of the campaign. Every effort should be utilized to get the most outstanding speaker you can possibly attain to bring a powerful, challenging, dynamic, expository message on stewardship to inspire the people to give sacrificially. And there will be no ingathering of subscriptions at the dinner because nothing takes the place of the personal interview in the home of each prospect. And also, every means possible should be undertaken to have the maximum number of people in attendance at this dinner. In order to assure the maximum number at the dinner, we have a very effective yet simple technique with which we will brief your dinner committee in order that you may have a large representation at the dinner. Basically, you send out a formal typed-in invitation to every prospect that is going to be visited, and along with the dinner invitation, enclose a reply card addressed to the chairman of the dinner committee. Now, we will guide your committees through every phase in the preparation for this campaign. All the techniques that have been outlined so far deal with that first phase, the preliminary stage, the actual preparation, and yet a vitally important phase in the entire structure of your campaign. Now, there may be a few questions at this point. You might say, well, how much will all this material cost? You have a choice of printers, yours or our printer, and we would strongly recommend that you use our printer. You will save money over against a local printer seeing all of these forms for the very first time, and you will be relieved of the responsibility of production of the various items. We have purposely made all of our material as attractive and eye-appealing as possible for obvious reasons. And altogether there are approximately 15 items, including envelopes, to be used on a campaign. Some are very simple items as far as printing is concerned, such as envelopes, and others are rather complicated items, the man-sized letter, the brochure, and the prospect subscription card. The entire cost for all these items would be approximately $450 to $600, including, of course, the brochure, and that is in a church of 400 or 500 families. If your church is a little larger or smaller, the price will vary slightly. You might say this is going to involve quite a lot of work and preparation, and that is quite true. But we provide copyrighted procedure booklets of instruction for every committee chairman. We will meet with them whenever necessary to go over the progress so that when we enter the vital second phase of the campaign, the congregation is very definitely prepared. And when the visitor enters the home, he can expect the finest possible response. Now, may I say just a word or two regarding the staff of visitors that we use in this highly specialized field. Our organization has completed in the neighborhood of 500,000 interviews. Our staff are prepared by thorough training and long experience to do a more thorough and effective piece of work than can be done by the hastily trained or completely untrained layman. About half our staff are clergymen, and we use a pastoral, spiritual approach exclusively. No high pressure is used by a Kirby Smith visitor. And in the last 8 or 10 years, about 80% of our work has come to us in repeat campaigns or directly or indirectly by recommendation from other churches previously served. To us, it is vitally important to leave the right impression and proper reaction behind in each church that we have been privileged to serve. The Reverend Canon Douglas Kennedy, rector of St. James's Episcopal Church, West Hartford, Connecticut, comments as to the result of our services.
It gives me great satisfaction to testify to the fine relationship we have had with Kirby Smith Associates during the past few years, to the point where we now consider them to be an important part of the operating staff of our parish. We have had 5 3-year capital fund campaigns, the first 2 conducted by another organization, the third by ourselves, and the last 2, which were the most successful in every way, by Kirby Smith. In addition to this, they have just completed a new member budget visitation, which exceeded our expectations. Apart altogether from the financial success of these 3 campaigns, the overall effect of the visitations throughout the parish has been most gratifying, and the response of our people to the visitors has been all that we could desire. The dedication of the visitors, their unfailing courtesy and spirit of optimism, their attention to detail and awareness of present-day problems, their ability to cope with a great variety of situations in a most helpful manner, the complete lack of any high-pressure salesmanship, all of these combine to produce a group who bring about results both immediate and far-reaching. We are so completely satisfied that we contemplate using Kirby Smith Associates on an annual basis from now on and can give them an unqualified recommendation.
Normally, it will take about 2 weeks to complete a thorough visitation in the average church. If it is a small church, it would require a week. Or if it is a large church, it would take 3 weeks. If it is extremely large church, it would take 4 weeks. But generally 2 or 3 weeks would be the range of time required to complete the actual field visitation in any given church. The visitation begins the day after the campaign dinner. It is very important that I make this next point very clear. When our visitor goes into a home, he does infinitely more than just ask for a subscription. And while it is true that the financial appeal is the primary reason for the campaign, it is also true that as a visitor goes into the home, there is a great opportunity to do much more for the church and the individual than to just ask for a financial commitment. Before our staff begin the visitation, we have an indoctrination or briefing conference with the clergyman and possibly the campaign committee. Our staff are then qualified to go into the home and talk about the opportunities for service in the church. Therefore, the first thing our visitor does is to endeavor to create interest in all church organizations and activities. The result is that every church organization and activity is strengthened as a direct byproduct of this campaign. For illustration, If a visitor goes into a home and there is a child present who is not in the church school, this is immediately a point of contact. Or if one member of the family is a member of the church and the other one isn't, that of course is a contact for a prospective church member. Or perhaps if there is a young married couples club in the church and the young couple that the visitor is interviewing are not active in this group, there of course is an opportunity to obtain a prospect, in this case for the young married couples club. The same thing is true from church membership to the scouts and the choir. With this approach, we have never been in a church where we have not strengthened every organization and activity as a direct result of our visitation. And what's more, on the back of each prospect subscription card, we give a detailed pastoral written report reflecting the conditions in every home we have visited. We also check the church records and bring them up to date whenever possible. We have had countless clergymen and laymen tell us that if we hadn't raised a penny, just a survey and census alone would have been worth the entire cost of the campaign. Actually, we are temporarily on the church staff as assistants to the clergy. So you see that after doing these things first, it is very easy to draw attention to the material that has been received, and then to launch into the financial aspect of the interview. A capital fund subscription is always in addition to the amount presently being given to current expense and missions. Now, if I were to say, gentlemen, we have a certain plan, and this is it, you could say that in many cases it would fit beautifully. It would fit beautifully, while in other churches perhaps it wouldn't work too well. So we have to have a plan that is flexible enough to meet the needs of the local church situation. Well, I am just going to present to you the general plan. That is, the plan that is used by the greatest percentage of churches that we serve. We talk, you see, in terms of building or improvement fund shares. And while the share is determined by the committee, we would recommend in virtually every case that the value of the share be $1,200 for one share on the basis of a 3-year run or 150 weeks. This, of course, would be $8 a week. Well, you might say, frankly, we have very few people in our church who, after the special gifts were taken care of, would have the ability or the interest to subscribe as much as one share of $1,200 or $8 a week. Well, we realize that. But, you see, we have purposely valued a share high because human nature is a peculiar thing. Many times a person will give a quarter or 1/3 or half a share. And frankly, he'll give a quarter or 1/2 a share in most cases, regardless of what the value of the share may basically be. And it's immediately apparent that if you value the share too low, and if a person responds to the quarter, 1/3, 1/2 share level, the result wouldn't be a very encouraging response. So therefore, we know that it is best to raise the sights, because after all, a person can always come down to a quarter or half a share. This is a tested and proven plan that has been used in hundreds of churches. Sacrificial giving is stressed in the home by the visitor. After the special gift prospects have been cared for, we realize there wouldn't be a great many in an average church that would subscribe one share, that is $1,200 or $8 a week. But there would be a great many people who would say, while I can't give one share, I will subscribe 1/2 share, 1/3 of a share, or 1/4 share. The vast majority of people in any given church that subscribe will welcome this weekly payment plan by giving each week in a special building fund set of envelopes. However, for the minority and the special gift prospects, there is a plan B, whereby a person can subscribe anything he wishes, making payments annually, quarterly, or semi-annually. So you see, our program is flexible enough and broad enough to allow everyone to participate. Our visitor presents the program in the home. He challenges the people to do the very best they can, but does not high-pressure them into subscribing beyond their ability. we are the instruments used to challenge each one to make a sacrificial commitment. The final decision, however, is between the individual and his Lord. Mr. Henry Beasler, former treasurer of the Lutheran Church in America, tells why he thinks the Kirby Smith approach provides positive results.
As former treasurer of the United Lutheran Church in America, I was asked on many occasions by pastors of congregations for guidance and help in solving their financial problem. On many occasions, I suggested the name of Kirby Smith Associates and was glad when I learned that they had given you the opportunity to serve. I must say a word of commendation for your staff members. They're a fine diplomatic lot and know their job.
Now we come to the important third section, the campaign, the conservation, or the follow-up program. You might say, well, this program sounds good, but how do we know that after we have received these subscriptions, the people are going to honor the amounts they have indicated? Well, I'm sure we all realize that when we deal with human nature, nothing can be guaranteed. If anyone were to tell you that he could guarantee that every subscription would be paid in its entirety, he would be lying. After our experience of about 30 years in this specialized field, we feel that we have a definite technique whereby the church is protected to the best possible degree. First of all, you determine the people that we visit. Your committee, as one of their functions, will fill out the prospect subscription card with the names and addresses of the people to call upon. So you determine the scope of the visitation. Immediately after the call has been made, an official acknowledgement certificate or card is mailed, which not only verifies our work, but lets the subscriber know that the amount has been recorded on the church books. And then we strongly advocate that every 3 months you send out a friendly quarterly reminder to all subscribers so that they will know exactly how their account stands. There are 3 methods from which a church might choose to conduct its capital fund campaign. The one method, of course, would be for the church to attempt this campaign without any professional advice or counsel whatever. And this, incidentally, is rarely done. Or you might ask a regular fundraiser to come and bring a director to train your people to go out and you do the hard field work. Or you might ask us to come in and do everything in preparation that any other organization would do, but then to go that vital step further of providing an experienced staff to perform the visitation for you in a pastoral manner. But gentlemen, regardless of which method you select, in the final analysis, the church must of necessity be responsible for the follow-up procedure. All we or anyone can do for any church is to obtain these subscriptions within the ability of the people to pay them. This we will do. It is then the responsibility of the church to keep the interest high so that the people have a continued desire to keep their subscriptions up to date. So therefore, each quarter, after the quarterly reminder has been sent out, it is very important that there be a select few group leaders organized within the church to make follow-up calls on any delinquents who are in arrears and from whom there has been little or no response. Now, if word permeates through the congregation from the very beginning that you mean business on this thing, people will get their envelopes in regularly because they will not want to visit each quarter from the group leader. But the converse is also true. If word gets around that evidently the church is not going to follow up, that no one seems concerned, why then, because you again are dealing with that human element, the result will be that more people will have the tendency to fall by the wayside. Experience has shown that if a church follows up diligently from the very beginning, it will have a minimum of shrinkage. In any normal church, there are potentially enough new families coming in during the subscription period and non-subscribers who will eventually desire to subscribe so that any normal shrinkage on those who have left the church or have died or moved away will be offset. We have served churches where they have actually received more funds at the end of the third year than the amount subscribed, or where there has been a very low shrinkage rate. And we have been in other churches that have disregarded follow-up recommendations, where the shrinkage rate has been perhaps 5, 6% or more. If a church disregards all conservation instruction, then, of course, they can expect a higher percentage of delinquency. It is very important to maintain the interest level. Consequently, whether your need is building, repair, renovation, or whatever it may be, try to start the construction as soon as possible, or at least try to provide actual, tangible evidence of where the funds are going to be used. In that way, people will be encouraged not only to keep their subscriptions up to date, but because many of them, by nature, will have a tendency to subscribe conservatively, they will be encouraged in many cases to give over and above the amount they have subscribed. At any time during the 3-year period, we are at your service to conduct a training class on follow-up procedure. If you have need of counsel or advice on follow-up procedure, we will be glad to come back at no additional fee whatever and help you in any way we can. As an option, and at nominal cost, we will provide a qualified staff member to return to the field for a week at any time during the 3-year payment period to visit new families or follow up possible delinquents. Of course, it is necessary to work together with you on this entire campaign. And there are certain committees, naturally, that will have to be organized with the church, such as the Special Gift Committee, the dinner, the publicity, transportation and hospitality committees, conservation, and the clerical committees. And in order to staff these committees adequately, about 18 to 20 men and women of the church would be carefully selected to serve on these committees. And incidentally, it is now appropriate to point out that if you were to select a directed type of campaign, and assuming that your church had 300 families, you would have to have approximately 45 carefully selected people who would be trained to go out and perform the visitation. You would need the 18 or 20 serving on the committees, plus the 45 for the visitation, or a total of about 60 to 65 people that you could definitely count upon to ensure the success of the campaign. Now, here is where many churches run into difficulty. Frankly, there is no problem in obtaining the 18 or 20 to serve on the committees, but many churches would have great difficulty in obtaining another 40 to 45 that they could definitely count upon as qualified visitors. The advantage of the Kirby Smith program is that while we will require your laymen to serve on the committees, it is not necessary, except perhaps for 1 or 2 on the Special Gift Committee, for any of the laymen to perform the actual visitation. We are unique in that we provide the experienced staff for the actual, arduous field work of the complete visitation of the entire constituency. So you see, we have a well-rounded program. First, we have a definite technique of preparation that has been tested and proven in hundreds of cases. And then, when the field visitation is launched, we have an experienced staff who have had the experience of completing hundreds of thousands of interviews. And then we are at your service at any time to instruct your church in a very definite follow-up procedure. The Reverend Richard Brooks, a Methodist minister in California, tells what happened during their campaign.
In behalf of the members of this church, I am glad that I have this opportunity to say a few words of recommendation for the Kirby Smith organization and to express the appreciation of the whole church for the fine Christian leadership given us by Kirby Smith personnel in the handling of our Building Fund campaign 2 years ago. 2 years have passed, and we are now in an even better position to see the lasting values of a campaign handled in such a business-like manner and with such spiritual concern. The financial results surprised us, both in that the amount of the original pledges was somewhat more than we had anticipated, and in that the payments on pledges have been excellent. This spirit has gone beyond the lines of membership, and friends of the church have also joined in the program. Many gave labor and materials as well as money. We feel much of this is due directly to the attitude and approach of the Kirby Smith representatives, both in the presentation and in the solicitation.
May we here at Kirby Smith take this opportunity to express our appreciation for the privilege that we have had of having you play this recording. I am confident that you have a number of questions, and we certainly invite your further correspondence in this connection. If you are interested in the possibility of our being of service to your church, we invite you to indicate this interest, and also mention the month that you would like the visitation to take place in your church. Then we, without any obligation whatever to you, will tentatively reserve a possible time on our master schedule for your church, and we will hold the time until you have had the opportunity to come to a final decision or to meet our representative personally for a formal presentation. I am sure that one of the questions that would naturally be brought forth is, what would be the charge for the specialized service? Actually, even though we provide the experienced staff, the cost for our services is no greater than for the services of other recognized organizations in the profession that simply give you a directed campaign, whereby your own people do all of the actual calling. I am confident if we have the opportunity of quoting a specific fee for your church, that you will find it to be most reasonable. Again, may I say that we have greatly appreciated the opportunity of coming before you in this unique manner, and we trust that we may be of service to your church.